Hey folks, today I want to review this Sinclair Hilt Saber by Nielo Swords. I don't know if it's pronounced Nielo or Nielo or something like that. So there's been some discussion about the term Sinclair Saber. What is it? Is it even an accurate term? Either way, you can call this a Dussack or a Dussack, and some people will argue that calling it a Sinclair Hilt is inaccurate, or calling anything a Sinclair Saber is an inaccurate term. Others accept it as a more modern term simply. And whenever there is disagreement about the terms, it's always good to keep in mind that this is just for our use in modern times, because historically they didn't strictly classify. To them, this was a saber or it was a sword. They didn't come up with all these different terms, and we just do that so we have a better idea of what is meant, because there are so many different periods with so many different types. Well, to us, types. Even when it comes to Dussacks or Dussacks, there isn't always agreement. For example, Michael Oates in his book Swords and Swordsmen defines it as a blunt sword with a short, curved, broad blade and integral hilt used exclusively for training or sparring. So that would be this kind of thing here. That's a Dussack, and you see them in historical manuals, quite a lot of them actually, and they're usually wooden ones, although there is a reference to them being made of leather as well, and there are also some steel versions. So yeah, integral hilt, that's what that means. It's all one piece, so the tang basically curves upward to form the guard. So it was a training tool used at the time, but there are also plenty of historical examples of sharp Dussacks. In fact, Czech ones even look just like this. They also have the tang curved up to form the guard, and they were sharp, used as a kind of a long knife as a tool. And yeah, there are also many examples like this, with some sort of a basket hilt or a clamshell guard or knuckle bow, various rings, complex hilts in general. So they come in a variety of different shapes. So whether you call it Dussack or Dussack or Sinclair Hilt, personally I don't care. I mean, it's pretty clear in general what you mean by these terms. I'm probably going to refer to it as a Sinclair Hilt just because the maker calls it that. So this one here is quite short. They generally weren't very long in history, but this is a particularly short example, and it's only a slight curve. Some of them were pretty much straight or entirely straight. Some were fairly strongly curved. So again, some variation here. And I don't know what steel it is. So on the website, they just say high quality spring steel, and these are hand forged. In one place on the website it says they are tempered to a hardness of 53 HRC, and in another place it says 50. So in the category Renaissance swords it says 50, so I'm assuming this is 50 HRC, even though it seems harder than that. When I sharpened it, it took quite a while. It seemed definitely quite hard when sharpening. Speaking of sharpening, they say that these are usually blunt or stage combat blades, so they're mainly intended for, well, they say fencing, and they also say reenactment. And for reenactment, I can see that. Fencing, HEMA in particular, definitely not suitable for that, because it came blunt, pretty much. I mean, dull, maybe I would say, but probably not quite thick enough to be perfectly safe. And also, it comes with a point, of course. That would be rather risky in actual sparring, or at least high intensity sparring. Definitely not suitable for that. And yeah, it's also pretty stiff, which is good for cutting, not good for practice. So this thing kind of falls a little awkwardly in between, at least for my purposes. As said, for reenactment, stage combat, not sure if I'd be comfortable with that, but then again, I don't know what the requirements are for stage combat, what people generally think. Either way, for cutting, this has not been good. I tried that, I sharpened it, and you can cut with it now, but it's not easy because this is a pretty thick blade and there's this strong secondary bevel at the end, and there's just a lot of resistance as you cut with it because of that. So not really, I would not recommend this for cutting. It's not designed for that, and it doesn't work very well, really. As far as durability is concerned, one problem that I had with this is this already came with wooden shims inside, which is not a good sign. If the maker relies on shims to keep the guard in place, that's a bit fishy in my book. So it should be fitted correctly, like the opening in the guard should be tight enough that you have to force it onto the blade, or at least that it seats pretty well without having to shim it. And this is what happened from testing. A rattle developed, so the hilt worked itself loose a little bit. Not the pommel, that's good, so it was just up here where the guard is. But yeah, the blade has quite a bit of wiggle room here. And now that I've shimmed it, I noticed that it's slightly off center. So you can tell just how much space is in there, which is not great. That's a bit of a problem. Now that I've shimmed it, it's perfectly solid, but it's a concern for sure. The other issue that I have, there is a thumb ring here, but it's essentially useless. The problem is the thumb ring is so low that you can't really benefit from it. You know, some sabers have that to be able to exert more control with the thumb. And ironically, if I put my thumb up here, you know, there's enough, just about enough guard here that I can actually put it on. I can benefit from this more than from the thumb ring, because up here, this is where I need that. This is where the thumb needs to be. If the thumb is down here while my finger's up here, I mean, you can probably see that here. This does absolutely nothing. I would have to choke down really far to be able to actually put pressure on that thumb ring and actually use it. And I can't really choke down that far and still be able to use it properly. Another annoyance is the square pommel here. The examples that I've seen, historical ones, were round. I don't know if the square one existed, but my problem with that is it kind of, with some cuts and positions, it digs into the wrist. Now, depends on exactly how you hold it, but particularly if you have larger hands and the wrist is further down, this is quite likely to actually dig into the hand. Overall, it's quite a hefty blade. It's short, but it's pretty thick, and the hilt, of course, also adds quite a bit of weight. I'm going to show you the balance. The balance is pretty close to the hilt because of how much mass it has, but it's still, the entire thing has quite a lot of weight for the size, and of course that can help with powerful cuts, but it can also be tiring if you keep swinging that for a long period of time. Not an issue though. The weight and balance I think are fine. Now I haven't handled too many Dussacks or basket-hilted sabers, but subjectively this seems definitely reasonable. Just, it's supposed to be a pretty heavy cutting saber. I quite like the handle, both aesthetically and also the way it feels. It is quite well done. You've got the brass wire wrap, and the way it swells in between the wire wrap definitely helps keep it in the hand, makes it comfortable. Well done. It looks good, feels good, so handle quite nice. The finish overall, I don't think is really what I expect from a sword in this price range, because this goes for $610 US. So that's solidly upper mid-range. This is almost going into the low high end. So I expect fairly high standards for that price, and this just doesn't quite deliver. The finish is not, I mean, keep in mind when you see the close-ups here, there is some wear from use, but these dark spots here in particular, that's the way it came. And, you know, might be a little nitpicky, but I do expect a better finish for this price, most certainly. The final verdict, I don't think I can recommend this personally. Now it depends if you're looking for a Dussack or Sinclair Hilt just like this, there aren't too many options. I'm going to post somewhat similar sabers down below. They're not going to be terribly similar, just in case you're looking for something like this. Yeah, so limited options. This is also why I got that one, because these are hard to find. Sharp Dussacks in general are quite hard to find on the reproduction market. So if that's what you're looking for, then you're kind of stuck with this one, and it's not terrible. But if you want one for cutting, then definitely look elsewhere. There's a similar problem as the Messer from Nielo swords. You know, even with sharpening, it just doesn't perform very well. And it's a lot of money for this kind of design. It's sad that there are a few flaws in here, and if it was, say, 400, I'd say, okay, I can probably recommend that. 600? Yeah, I don't think so. Not really. But it looks nice, and this is why this bothers me. This is one of my favorite types, just aesthetically, and I wanted to like this, and I still actually like it, even though it has these issues. It's still one that I like to look at and also like to handle, but yeah, it is what it is. Anyway, hope you found the review helpful, and thanks for watching. Have a good one, folks.